Hello peasants and welcome back to another video from the king of Reddit. From you, not an ocelot. What's the biggest bullet you've ever dodged? I was a teen driver not paying attention at an intersection at the crest of a hill with low visibility when the light turned green. The car behind me honked, and just as I was about to go, a truck barreled through the red light on the perpendicular road at decidedly ludicrous speed. If I had been paying attention and gone when the light turned green, I very likely would have been T-boned to death. Closest call I've ever had. This one just materialized yesterday, actually. About a year ago at my job, I was offered to switch from my current team where I was established for a few years, had seniority, etc. for a new department that just started to kick it off, write processes, basically start from square one. A lot more work for the same amount of pay. I figured fuck it and went. Yesterday they announced that they just closed the physical HQ office for my old department, and everyone in that entire part of the company would have to either move to one of 14 random states that we can't pick, it's chosen basically by a roulette wheel for where you're going, to a local office, or they're going to be fired on June 22nd. Thankfully, since I'm part of the new department, I wasn't included in that mandate. Phew. Sold my bar and grill business in August 2019, sold my 3 restaurants in February 2020, for way more than they were worth. Now 2 have closed. I was subletting an apartment in college and got zapped by the electric stove. Gave notice immediately and moved out with very clear reasons why I was moving out. The building burned a few weeks later. Edit. Well, this blew up. Thanks, kind Redditors. LOL, I can't stop imagining you getting a static shock and then just packing your shit eater. I know that's not what happened, but still, haha. I was stirring a pot with a metal spoon. The spoon touched the pot and I got a zap. Ended up on the desk behind me, blinking from the flash. I was out kayaking on a lake and several bullets whizzed by me. There was a distinct crack buzz sound as it went by. I think some people were just out blinking in their backyard, adjacent to the lake, and didn't think a backstop was necessary. This also happened to me a few weeks later when I was paddling on a small stream. Bullets whizzed by above the bank, just over my head. I don't think anyone knew I was there either time. Regardless, when you go out and shoot stuff, make sure there's a backstop, FFS. Also, I don't know how big the bullets were, so I'm unsure which was the biggest bullet dodged. I was booked on Pan Am Flight 103 which went down over Lockerbie, Scotland. I didn't have a premonition or anything supernatural. I just decided to cancel my seat. Didn't think anything of it until the plane went down and my mother had written down my flight plan and reminded me. This was back in the day when you could cancel without a penalty up to a couple of days in advance. Pro tip: to avoid the few days away cancellation fees, call, or go online and reschedule the flight for a week or 2 out, then wait a day and cancel. 2005, my friend and I evacuated New Orleans 2 days before Hurricane Katrina and drove to Mississippi with the little money we had. We were trying to decide on where to stay for the night, and it was between a mid-range hotel or the really cheap motel. Decided to spend a little more for the hotel. During the night the eye of the storm came through Mississippi and flattened the roof of the motel we decided against. My mom wasn't going to leave for Katrina. I told her I was going to take me and my little sister and hitchhike if she didn't pack the car and leave within the hour. My dad didn't leave and he ended up on the roof with our neighbor because our house got flooded. No way all of us would have survived. Katrina decimated my town. Everything 2 miles inland or less was destroyed. Physically, a bus. I grew up in Bermuda, and since it is such a small island, cars are limited to 1 per family, and everyone drives mopeds. I was driving into town, and came up to a red light behind a bus. As is tradition, I scooted around the bus to be in the front of the line of traffic. Literally 2 seconds later a second bus smashed into the back of the first bus at like 30 miles per hour. I would have been pancaked without question. 100% dead. I just sat on the side of the road for a bit and thought about my mortality. Edit, thank you for the awards. My only other Bermuda bus-based encounter was driving home from my first job in the rain. An oncoming bus in the opposite lane went through a massive puddle and sent what looked like a tidal wave of water right at me. It literally picked me and my little Yamaha V50 right up and swept us off the road onto some grass. So I guess in the end it was me. One bus is one. It's crazy how 1 second life is in front of you, then nothing. I was in an accident in my motorcycle a few years ago. Last thing I remember before paramedics arrived was saying, "Oh phew, it changes your perspective on life." I matched with a guy on Tinder who played for the Atlanta Falcons. He was really charming and seemed nice. He asked me to fly down to Atlantic City for Memorial Day weekend, said he would pay for everything, airfare, hotel, food, etc. But I had never met him before and he refused to give me his phone number. I was uncomfortable flying to meet a stranger, so I told him number. 2 weeks later he was on the news for kicking and killing his girlfriend's dog. About 6 months after I left my ex, he got caught sexting a 12-year-old. He was 34 at the time. Edit, I had the wrong age. He was 34 when it started. By the time he was in jail he was 36. I had 2 job offers in different states at the same time. The one I didn't take was offering more money, but I just didn't gel with the guy who would be my boss and really liked the guy who would be my boss at the lower offer. The better offer was in a state I had always wanted to live in, for a company I admired. But something felt off, so I went with the lower offer. I ended up meeting my wife in the city of the lower offer. Meanwhile, the company that had given me the higher offer abruptly closed and laid off their entire staff with no severance, so if I had taken that I would have been stuck on the other side of the country with no job and no money. Not the biggest bullet I've ever dodged, but I had to walk away from the interview process from one of my dream companies because I had been out of work for a year and I had another offer from a smaller, less prestigious company and couldn't hold out with no income any longer. I tried asking the dream company if we could speed up the process due to the competing offer, but they could not. The dream company was in entertainment and laid off a ton of people when the pandemic hit. The job I took was doing the same role but in real estate, which boomed during the pandemic. Also, my ex ended up getting a job at the dream company. Kind of nice to not have to work next to her. Similar story. 2 offers, one for a little more money, the other had way better retirement plan. The interview for the good benefits company just didn't feel right, like the interviewer was trying to convince me not to take it. I took the other offer, and the good benefits company merged with another company, moved half their workforce to a 1-company town in BFE, Ohio, and laid off the rest. My interviewer at that company ended up becoming my coworker at the other company, and his manager ended up being his and my manager at the other company. I worked with a guy who had a higher offer at another company in the same city, both in Houston, but he thought it all just seemed too good to be true. So, even though it offered more money and perks, he stuck by his spidey sense and took the lower paying job. And passed on the job with Enron. Edit, thank you for the award. Smile. Not me. A Dutch mate of mine living in Tasmania had to visit his sick mum in Amsterdam. Booking his flight online, he said to his wife, "You know, I'm sick of flying Malaysian Airlines. The food is shit, the hosties are miserable. It'll cost more, but I'm booking with Singapore." So, instead of dying on MH17, he was on a plane 40 kilometers ahead of it. Edit, just to clarify, he was on way home from AMS. Butterfly effect: if someone at Malaysia had made a better menu he could have died. My first ever boyfriend dated me when I was 14 and he was 16. We only dated for 1 week before he took me into the woods and forced me to kiss him. I started to feel icky and broke it off that same day. 5 years later I found out that he was now in prison for raping 2 14-year-old girls. When I was 16 I had a crush on this dude who was 17 or 18 and he was trying to convince me to hook up him in the middle of the night cause he lived like 2 2 neighborhoods down from me. I was down till he mentioned that he wanted to do it in the woods, and I was like no thanks, and never really talked to him again. I found out he wasn't alone that night. He had zero plans of meeting me alone, and the friend he was with had a reputation for being a rapist. We didn't use the word rapist to refer to him, we called him creepy, but now that I'm older I realize he was 100% a rapist. I really needed a job, and the manager at a dispensary in my area offered me a spot. I said no, and 4 days later they were raided and everyone got arrested.